Have you ever wondered what it feels like to be a journalist on the brink of a groundbreaking story? To be the one person entrusted with a truth that could alter public perception? To be the gatekeeper of information that might just change everything? Imagine, if you will, a man named Frank Verhofstadt, a seasoned journalist known for his tenacity and sharp observation skills. One day, he finds himself being beckoned into a rather plush office by a burly man named Evert Willink. Evert, a man who, despite his intimidating stature, offers Frank a cup of coffee with a warm smile. Evert represents two men, AD and HD, currently housed in a high-security institution in Vught. What these men have to say, Evert assures, is no fabrication. It's a story that could give Frank an exclusive and, more importantly, a chance to set the record straight. Frank, intrigued and slightly apprehensive, asks about the safety measures in place for this meeting. Evert reassures him, promising that nothing untoward will happen. The meeting is set for the following Monday, 2 weeks before the release of a report on a recent attack. The anticipation makes Frank's heart race, a sense of adventure and thrill coursing through his veins. He agrees to the meeting, but wonders if he will be allowed to broadcast the conversation. Evert suggests that they can discuss this with AD and HD. With the meeting concluded, Frank steps out into the world, his mind buzzing with possibilities. He decides to grab a bite to eat, choosing a familiar diner that reminds him of his time in New York. He sits, sips his coffee, and contemplates the journey he's about to embark on. In summary, we have a tale of anticipation and intrigue. We have Frank, a dedicated journalist, presented with an opportunity that could be a career-defining moment. We have Evert, the intermediary, ensuring that the story of AD and HD gets told. And then we have the story itself, a mystery waiting to be unraveled. How will this journey unfold? Only time can tell.
Today we find ourselves standing on the precipice of a question. How does the average person perceive the current state of affairs? To find the answer, Roland Veldmoa took to the market, microphone in hand, engaging in conversations with everyday citizens. Roland Veldmoa, a familiar face to many, began his dialogue with Mr. Brugman, a middle-aged man. Roland asked, "How are you today, Mr. Brugman, and what are your thoughts on the current situation?" Mr. Brugman's response echoed the sentiments of many. "It's a gloomy time with alarming news seemingly coming from all corners. Europe is in chaos, with right-wing parties gaining power across the continent. The rising tide of anti-Muslim sentiment is palpable, and it feels nearly impossible to cool the heated rhetoric. The Americans continue their relentless war on terror, a conflict that many feel has only exacerbated the issue. We cannot expect to transform a society steeped in tradition into a Western democracy in just a few short years. It's a process that requires patience and understanding." When asked about potential solutions, Mr. Brugman advocated for dialogue. The United Nations should step up, acting as a global government. However, corruption and the power wielded by larger nations often stalls progress. Decisions take too long, and actions are often only taken after disaster has struck. Look at the massacre of the Hutus and Tutsis, for instance. As for the future, Mr. Brugman expressed his fear. If the Americans continue on their current path, they may very well be responsible for instigating the Third World War. We, as a peaceful nation, are being dragged along in the insanity of a megalomaniac. Bosch, who shows no respect for other cultures, behaves like a true Texan cowboy. In other words, a real redneck. A simple country bumpkin with the intellect of a pig. First the Indians, then the Vietnamese, and now the Muslims. This conversation, while just one among many, provides a snapshot into the thoughts and concerns of everyday citizens. It's a reminder of the importance of dialogue, understanding, and the pursuit of peaceful solutions in these challenging times.
Is it possible to reconcile cultural differences in an increasingly interconnected world? This is the question we aim to explore today. As we delve into a fascinating conversation with Mohamed Arouk, a 48-year-old Moroccan man, we uncover his insightful perspectives on the current socio-political climate. Mohamed expresses his disapproval of the recent violent attack, lamenting the negative light it casts on the Islamic faith. He recalls the contentious Danish cartoon controversy and empathizes with devout believers who might find such depictions offensive, saying, "I am a born Moroccan but a grown Dutchman, and because I fall under Dutch law, I have to comply with these rules. So if I disagree, I go to court." He further denounces any violence in response to such controversies, asserting that violence begets violence, while dialogue fosters more dialogue. Muhammad's perspective is unique, as he identifies both as a believer in Islam and a Dutch citizen. He calls for action, suggesting that it's time for society to recognize the evolving nature of Islam and consider the separation of church and state in the future. He also addresses the need to break current taboos and criticizes the West's treatment of Islamic countries as colonies, suggesting that they should be given the opportunity to grow and develop their own cultures. The conversation shifts to the question of what can be done to address these issues. Muhammad's response is passionate, yet non-confrontational. He suggests that the best course of action is non-interference, allowing countries to manage their own affairs and navigate their own cultural paths. He also notes the importance of self-reflection for those dissatisfied with their current situation, suggesting that remigration might be a viable solution. Muhammad also highlights the importance of respecting those who return to their home countries after seeking a better life abroad. These individuals, he argues, bring back wealth and knowledge that can enrich their home countries. He underscores the significance of water and energy independence for these countries, suggesting that such self-reliance can help serve other interests. In summary, Muhammad's views underscore the importance of dialogue over violence, cultural respect and understanding, the need for self-reflection and self-reliance, and the recognition of the evolving nature of religious beliefs in the modern world. This conversation is a reminder that we all have a part to play in fostering a more inclusive, understanding, and peaceful world.
Have you ever wondered what strength it takes to rise above adversity, to dust off the dirt from a crash and get back on the track, to face the haunting memories of a war zone and yet continue the journey of life? Today's tale is about such resilience, about a man named Roland Veldmuis and a woman named Thea van Lanschot. Roland, a man of many talents, found himself sipping coffee in a HEMA lunchroom across the table from Thea. The setting was simple, yet they both regarded it as one of the finest spots to watch the bustling crowd. Roland, a former motocrosser and a war veteran, had his life turned upside down by a devastating crash. A promising contract with Suzuki was dissolved, and a long, grueling period of rehabilitation ensued. But Roland was not a man to surrender. Despite the severe injury and a bout of depression, he fought his way back to normalcy, his spirited character being his greatest ally. As he sat across Thea, the memories of a past interview echoed in his mind. It was her sister he had spoken to, on the Maasport. The fear in her eyes, the cries of her children, all reminded him of his days in Iraq. Images he thought he had buried deep within resurfaced, reminding him of the horrors of war. Yet it was Thea's voice, clear and commanding, that brought him back to the present. Her question about his fondness for their chosen spot seemed direct, but Roland appreciated it. He shared his nostalgia for a restaurant that was no longer there and asked after her sister and her children. Thea's response was simple: good. She revealed how her sister had found strength in Roland's understanding, how his empathy had given her a sense of security. Thea then shared her own harrowing experience of filming an explosion on her mobile phone, an incident that had left her hyperventilating. Roland listened, stirring his coffee as Thea's eyes began to sparkle. The story of a man who had seen the depths of despair and a woman who had captured a shocking event on film intersected over a cup of coffee in a HEMA lunchroom. In conclusion, life has a way of testing our resilience in the most unexpected ways. Whether it's a career-ending crash or a haunting memory of a war zone, it's the strength to rise above these adversities that defines us. And in this tale, Roland and Thea remind us that no matter the hardships, it's possible to find solace, strength, and perhaps even a shared understanding in the most ordinary of places.